Imagine two people beginning their careers on the same day, earning similar salaries, working similar hours, and believing that if they stayed disciplined and worked hard enough, financial security would eventually arrive. 20 years later, one owns investments that generate income even while they sleep, while the other still depends entirely on the next paycheck despite decades of dedication. The difference isn't always intelligence, ambition, or effort. More often, it comes down to understanding the financial system they were operating within, because hard work and wealth creation are related, but they are not the same thing. For generations, the 9-to-5 job has been presented as the safest path to financial stability. Study hard, develop valuable skills, find stable employment, and steadily climb the career ladder. This formula has undoubtedly improved millions of lives and remains an important foundation for many families. Yet over time, many workers discover an uncomfortable reality. As income increases, so do expenses, responsibilities, taxes, and expectations, leaving surprisingly little room for lasting wealth to accumulate. The paycheck grows, but financial freedom often remains just as distant. This isn't because the system is designed to punish workers, nor because employment lacks value. Rather, it reflects the way modern economies distribute income and how human psychology responds to increasing earnings. Income from work is linear. Every additional dollar generally requires additional time, greater responsibility, or more specialized expertise. Time, however, is limited. Every person receives the same 24 hours each day, creating a natural ceiling on how much labor income alone can expand. At first glance, earning a higher salary appears to solve this limitation. If someone doubles their income, shouldn't they become wealthy twice as fast? The mathematics suggest otherwise once spending patterns begin changing alongside earnings. Behavioral economists describe a phenomenon called lifestyle inflation, where increases in income gradually become increases in normal spending. A larger apartment feels justified after a promotion. A newer car feels reasonable after a raise. Vacations become slightly more expensive, subscriptions quietly multiply, dining out becomes more frequent, and before long, yesterday's luxury becomes today's expectation. This process rarely feels irresponsible because each individual decision seems affordable in isolation. The challenge emerges when these small adjustments become permanent financial commitments. Unlike one-time purchases, recurring expenses continue demanding future income. A larger mortgage, higher insurance premiums, financing payments, and ongoing maintenance all transform today's raise into tomorrow's obligation. Imagine someone earning $50,000 per year who saves 10% of their income. They save $5,000 annually. After several promotions, their salary rises to $80,000. If their savings rate remains at 10%, they now save $8,000 each year. That's progress, but if their lifestyle expands by nearly the same proportion, the increase in wealth accumulation is much smaller than the increase in income. Meanwhile, larger tax obligations and higher living costs further reduce the amount available to invest. More income has created a more comfortable life, but not necessarily a dramatically stronger financial position. The equation becomes even more interesting when investment returns enter the picture. Money earned through labor arrives only while work continues. Money invested productively has the potential to generate additional returns over time through compounding. While investment outcomes are never guaranteed and markets fluctuate, the underlying mathematical principle is important. Capital has the ability to produce additional capital in ways that human labor alone cannot. Consider two individuals each earning the same salary. One spends nearly everything they earn, while the other consistently invests a meaningful portion over many years. Initially, their lifestyles may appear similar. As time passes, however, the invested assets may begin generating dividends, interest, rental income, or business profits. Gradually, a portion of future income becomes disconnected from hours worked. The source of income begins shifting from labor toward ownership. Another overlooked aspect of the 9-to-5 structure is how financial risk is concentrated. When nearly all income depends on a single employer, unexpected disruptions can have significant consequences. Economic downturns, industry changes, automation, or organizational restructuring may reduce income with little warning. Diversifying investments does not eliminate risk, but it can reduce dependence on a single source of earnings over time. Perhaps the most important shift is recognizing that a paycheck is a tool rather than the destination. Income creates choices, and those choices gradually determine whether future financial security depends entirely on continued labor or increasingly includes assets capable of generating value independently. This transition rarely happens through dramatic changes or extraordinary luck. More often, it reflects years of consistent decisions, modest investments, controlled spending, and patience. The 9 to 5 itself is not the trap. The trap is believing that earning more automatically leads to becoming wealthier. Income can certainly improve quality of life, but wealth grows through the relationship between what is earned, what is spent, and what is allowed the time to compound. Understanding that distinction changes the way work is viewed, not as the final goal, but as one important component within a much larger financial system. When people begin seeing their paycheck as fuel for building future ownership rather than simply funding present consumption, the conversation shifts from working harder to designing a financial life that becomes more resilient, flexible, and independent over time.